Los Angeles can feel like a city made of motion. Freeways, film sets, neighborhoods stacked from ocean to foothills. But one of its most surprising features is how quickly it gives way to real wildness. Within a few hours, you can trade palm-lined boulevards for creosote flats, tide pools, alpine forests, or wind-carved sandstone. The region's geography is a compressed lesson in California itself. The Pacific meeting the Transverse Ranges, deserts lying in the rain shadow, and a coastline shaped by currents, tectonics, and human ambition. These are 10 of the best nature escapes from Los Angeles, spanning desert, coast, and mountains, each with its own character, history, and practical details for visiting. Start with Joshua Tree National Park, where the Mojave and Colorado deserts overlap and the landscape seems to change personality by elevation. The namesake Joshua trees, actually yuccas, cluster across higher ground, while lower basins feel more purely Sonoran, Ocotillo, Cholla, and broad fans of desert light. This is a park written by geology. Piles of rounded granite boulders formed from molten rock deep underground, then exposed and sculpted by erosion into natural playgrounds for climbers. Long before it became a national park in 1994, this was Indigenous homeland, with deep cultural connections and archaeological sites. Today, the park's dark sky reputation is part of the draw. On clear nights, the Milky Way can look close enough to touch. Travel smart here. Carry more water than you think you need. Avoid midday hikes in summer, and remember that cell service can vanish. A short walk to Barker Dam, built by early cattle ranchers, hints at the hard economics of desert living. Water as architecture, survival as engineering. For a desert experience that feels almost otherworldly, Anza-Borrego Desert State Park offers vast space and silence on a scale that's rare in Southern California. It's California's largest state park, and it rewards visitors who come with curiosity rather than a checklist. In spring, if winter rains cooperate, wildflowers can ignite entire valleys. Desert sunflowers, sand verbena, and fields of color that appear and disappear like a brief weather event. The park's badlands expose layered sediments where paleontologists have found fossils that speak to a time when this region had very different climates and ecosystems. The Borrego Palm Canyon Trail leads to a genuine oasis where native California fan palms rise above a narrow canyon, an improbable pocket of shade and water. The practical tip here is timing. Winter and early spring are prime. Summer heat can be dangerous. And if you have a high-clearance vehicle, the park's dirt roads open into washes and viewpoints that feel far from the modern world, even though San Diego and Los Angeles are not far away. Not all desert escapes require a long drive. The Mojave National Preserve sits between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, like a wide, quiet intermission, and it's one of the most underappreciated landscapes in the region. Here, the desert has variety. The Kelso Dunes rise in pale gold waves, and under the right conditions, the sand can sing, producing a low, booming resonance when it slides. Cinder cones and lava flows reveal volcanic chapters, and the preserved depot at Kelso, an elegant reminder of railroad history, anchors the human story. The preserve contains dense stands of Joshua trees, and also the rare, spiky elegance of the Mojave yucca. Come prepared for remoteness. Services are sparse, summer is severe, and navigation matters. The reward is a desert that feels spacious and uncurated, a place where distance still has meaning. Shift to the coast and you get a completely different California, shaped by currents and marine life rather than heat and drought. Channel Islands National Park, reached by boat from Ventura or Oxnard, is often called North America's Galapagos, not because it's tropical, but because isolation has produced unique species and ecosystems. Island foxes, tiny and charismatic, exist nowhere else, and kelp forests offshore function like underwater redwood groves, feeding fish, seals, and seabirds. The islands also carry layered human histories. The Chumash built plank canoes called tomals and navigated these waters with skill that still impresses maritime historians. Later came ranching, military use, and conservation, each leaving traces. A day trip to Santa Cruz Island can include sea caves, coastal bluffs, and hikes into interior canyons that bloom after rains. Plan carefully. Boats can be canceled for weather, and there are no quick exits once you're out there. Bring layers. Even in summer, wind and fog can make the islands feel cool and raw. For a closer coastal escape that still feels like a true habitat, Point Mugu State Park in Ventura County offers a rare combination: beaches, cliffs, and backcountry canyons all within one park. The Santa Monica Mountains meet the ocean here with dramatic confidence. You can hike from chaparral-covered ridges down to the surf, crossing zones that change with exposure and wind. Sycamore Canyon is a classic route for wildflowers and birdlife, and the park's coastal roads reveal views that explain why this coastline has been filmed so often. Though the real star is the landscape itself. The Santa Monica Mountains have long been traveled by indigenous peoples and later became a patchwork of ranches and homesteads. Today, protected lands preserve one of the largest urban-adjacent Mediterranean ecosystems in the world. The chaparral is beautiful, but flammable. Respect fire closures, stay on trails, and remember that conditions can change quickly. Continue north along the coast to El Matador State Beach in Malibu for a compact lesson in shoreline geology. This is not a long wilderness trek. It's an intimate coastal scene of sea stacks, arches, and sculpted sandstone that glows warm near sunset. At low tide, pockets of sand and exposed rock create natural corridors, and tide pools can reveal anemones, crabs, and small fish adapted to a life of constant wave shock. The best tip here is to check tide tables and arrive early. Parking is limited and the path down is steep. Treat the tide pools gently. No collecting, no stepping on living communities, and you'll leave with a sharper sense of how much biodiversity can exist in a few square yards of intertidal zone. If you want a coastal landscape with a longer history of human use and a broader sense of space, Palos Verdes Peninsula offers bluff-top trails and sweeping views where Los Angeles seems to fall away into ocean and sky. The area's cliffs and coves are shaped by landslides and slow geological movement, and the peninsula's coastal sage scrub supports birds and pollinators that have lost much habitat elsewhere. The Point Vicente Lighthouse area is a classic spot for gray whale watching during migration season, when the ocean becomes a moving corridor of life. Nearby, Abalone Cove Shoreline Park provides access to tide pools and rocky shore, though conditions can be hazardous when surf is high. The peninsula's story includes ranching and development, but also conservation efforts that have preserved key coastal parcels. Bring sturdy shoes and caution. Coastal rocks are slippery and sneaker waves are real. Turn inland and upward into the San Gabriel Mountains, where Angeles National Forest rises abruptly behind the city like a natural wall. Mount Baldy, known formally as Mount San Antonio, offers one of the most dramatic elevation gains near Los Angeles and a genuine alpine feel in winter and spring. On a clear day, the summit views stretch across the basin and out to the ocean, making the city feel like a map rather than a lived place. The range sits along complex fault systems, and the steep topography reflects active tectonics as much as erosion. The practical reality is that this mountain demands respect. Weather changes rapidly, trails can be icy, and altitude affects people who are used to sea level. In winter, traction devices can be essential, and in summer, early starts help avoid heat and afternoon thunderstorms. The reward is a sense of vertical California. Chaparral giving way to pine and fir, then to bare ridgelines. For a mountain escape with water at its center, Big Bear Lake and the surrounding San Bernardino National Forest offer a high-elevation plateau experience that feels like a different state from Los Angeles. The lake itself is a reservoir, shaped by human engineering, but the surrounding forests and meadows provide habitat for birds, deer, and seasonal wildflowers. The area's history includes indigenous presence, mining booms in the 19th century, and the later rise of recreation as a defining economy. In winter, snow sports dominate. In summer, hiking and paddling take over, and the air feels notably cooler than the basin below. Because it's popular, the best strategy is to visit midweek or shoulder seasons and to be mindful of traffic patterns. At elevation, sun exposure is stronger and dehydration can sneak up even when temperatures feel mild. For a more rugged mountain and desert meeting point, the San Jacinto Mountains above Palm Springs deliver a striking contrast. You can ride the Palm Springs aerial tramway from desert floor to alpine forest in about 10 minutes, crossing multiple life zones as if you're flipping through a textbook. At the top, Mount San Jacinto State Park offers trails through pines and granite, and in winter the upper station can be snowy while Palm Springs bakes below. The tramway itself is an engineering landmark, and the experience underscores Southern California's compressed geography, how quickly climate and vegetation can change with elevation. Plan for temperature swings of 30 degrees or more, bring layers, and check conditions. Storms can turn a casual walk into a serious undertaking. Finally, for a classic road trip scale reset, Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks are farther from Los Angeles than some on this list, but they belong in any serious conversation about nature escapes because they offer something the region near LA can't. Giant sequoias and deep Sierra granite on a monumental scale. Walking among the sequoias is a sensory recalibration. Bark thick enough to resist fire, trunks wider than small rooms, and a silence that feels architectural. These parks also carry complex histories. Indigenous stewardship long predates federal protection, and the park's creation reflects both conservation ideals and the displacement that often accompanied them. Nearby, Kings Canyon cuts deep and glacial through the range, and the engineering of roads and overlooks tells its own story of how Americans learned to see wilderness through access. Travel tips here are practical and essential. Reserve lodging early in peak season, carry chains in winter, and expect winding mountain roads. Give yourself time. These parks are not a quick stop, but a full shift in scale and pace. Across these 10 escapes, the common thread is not just scenery. It's the way Southern California compresses ecosystems and histories into reachable distances. The deserts teach patience and preparation. The coast teaches attention to tides and weather. And the mountains teach humility toward altitude and conditions. If you're choosing one place, let the season guide you. Deserts in winter and spring, high mountains in summer and early fall, coastlines year-round with a close eye on surf and tides. And wherever you go, remember that these landscapes are not empty backdrops. They are living systems with deep human histories shaped by fire and water, by plate tectonics and migration routes, and by the choices visitors make every day. The best nature escape from Los Angeles is the one that leaves you more observant on the drive back, more aware of the terrain under the city and of the wildness still woven through it.